This conference will now be recorded.
So now we'll discuss about validations. So validations will be of two types. This is what we have discussed, that is client side as well as the server side. So what is client side and what is server side? So this will be common in any of the technology, not only with PEGA. So client side meaning at the design prospect only. So if whatever the details we are entering, if that seems to be accepted before, that seems to be validated before clicking on submit button. Okay, so simply to say this, before submitting the form. And this will be like after clicking on submit button, after button. Okay, so the thing here is whatever the data we enter in this form, if that has to be validated from the server side, we have to go for this kind of validation. Okay, and if everything, if any of the data seems to be validated at the section level itself, just like email what we are trying to do. So if I just give the dummy email ID and click on tab out, then we'll be getting the validation message on the section level only. So let me open that now. So if we just check here, what are the data we enter? If we just tab out, we will be getting the error message directly, meaning it is trying to validate from here directly. So these kind of validations, so which seems to be validated before clicking on button clicks, should be considered as an client-side validation. Okay, so this will be considered as a client-side validation. Now, if I just click on button, form has to be submitted. Now, whatever the data that has been entered, that has to be submitted to the Java server, and Java server has to validate basic things. It has to validate the first name, what it is expecting is in the correct format or not. So based on the formats, it has to just check whether the data that has been submitted is the correct way or not. If it is not the correct way that is expecting, it has to throw some error. So those kind of validations, after it's interacting with the Java, will be considered as in server side. Okay, so there will be two kinds of validation, that is client side as well as the server side. So based on the business requirement, we have to go for those. So in PEGA, we can able to achieve these validations by using three rules. That is validate rule, which can be created under process tab, and edit validate is of one of the rule which can be created under data model. And next thing is constraints. Okay, constraints is the rule which can be created under decision category. Okay, so in PEGA we can able to achieve validations with these three rules. So if we just click on, if we just mouse over on this process, we can able to have one rule created for the validate. So this is one rule, and similarly there will be another rule for edit validate. So this is the one, and we can able to do the same using constraints also. So under decision there will be something called constraints. So ultimately the purpose of these rules is to show some error messages. Okay, to show some error messages only, we'll be going for this validate rule, and we can able to achieve the same using activities also. So using activities also, I can able to show some error messages using like property set message or page set messages or property validate or page validate. So there will be some kind of methods using which we can able to perform the same. So wherever we can able to avoid activities, we have to do that, right? So that is the reason in this case we will be going for validate rule. Instead of going for activities, we'll be going for validate rules. And first let us discuss about this one. Okay, so validate rule. So this rule will be completely like an server side validation. So what are the validations we are trying to achieve using this validate rule will be completely server side, meaning on entering the data here, it will not be validating anything. Suppose if I'm entering some incorrect data also, it will not be throwing any error unless we click on submit button. So if we click on submit button only, the data has to be posted to the server and it has to be throwing some validation errors. So this is purely server side validation. Whatever the thing we're trying to achieve, this rule will be like in server side, and this will be like an instance of rule obj validate. So all the rules will be like an instance of this class, that is rule obj validate. Okay, and validations achieved using edit validate will be client side. So mostly people will be thinking that this acts like an only client side, but we can able to make this to work like an server side also, that most of the people doesn't know this. Even in the interviews also, if we just say client side validation will be acting like an edit validate will be acting like an client side, even they will be considering this as a correct statement. There will be one thing where we can able to make this to be acting like in server side also, that most of the people doesn't know. And declare constraint, this is also completely client side. Okay, so here we can able to achieve with three rules, that is validate, which is an instance of rule obj validate, and this is completely server side validation. And there will be something like edit validate rule, which can be created under data model, and this will be acting like an client side as well as the server side. Mostly we will be using this for client side only. Okay, and this is an instance of rule edit validate. And there will be another rule also, that is declare constraints, and this will be acting like a client side. Okay, so now we'll just work on one by one. So we'll be taking this validate rule. So I can able to call this validate rule from many places. So on button click we have to run these validations, right? So on button click, what are the data that we want to validate, that has to be done on click of button, meaning I can able to call this particular validate rule on this section submit. So to be more technical, section will not be submitted, flow action will be submitted. Once flow action is getting submitted, section and all the things will be getting submitted. So based on this we can able to understand this is like an server side, and this should be called on button click, meaning that is submitting of flow action. So validate rule can be called from flow actions, that is one place. And similarly I can able to call this validate rule from activities also. Okay, this validate rule can be called using activities also, that is using obj validate. So this is one of the method name where we can able to validate the properties with this rule. Okay, so if we just click on button, and if we want to run one validate rule and just check for all the validations, we can able to go this approach. And other thing, we can able to call this validate rule from another validate rule also. If I just create one validate rule, there will be option for me to select another validate rule also. So these are all the things. So using validate rule, we can able to go for this approach, and in the real time, mostly this will be used. Mostly 90% of the cases, these will be used. I'll tell you why the other things will be given less preference. So based on the business requirement, we have to go for this also. That is not the big thing, but mostly they will be going for this one. Okay. So now we'll see how to create one validate rule and how to apply the basic validations. Okay. So now let us work on one small requirement, that is first name and last name should be mandatory. That is one thing. And last name should not be equal to first name. Okay, so during real time also, first name, whatever the value he's entering, the same value should not be there in the last name also. So that is the validation what we want to check. If he's entering both the values and clicking on submit button, we have to throw one error at the last name, not at the first name. So at the last name we have to throw one error saying like last name should not be equal to first name. So that is my requirement. Okay, and next thing is we have to accept only the customers who are of age between 18 to 60. Let us say 18 to 60 only I want to make them insured with our organization. So below 18 minor should not be acceptable, and above 60 senior citizen should not be allowed. So this thing we have to check. If it is 18 or if it is 60 and between any number, this has to be considered. So no validation, no error message has to be displayed now. Okay. So these are all things we'll work on. So we have not kept anything like mobile number. Huh? So here we have. So for phone number, so rest all things it's okay. For phone number, we should be having only 10 digits. Okay. So if he's entering either 9 digits or the 11 digits, that count should be displayed. Okay. Mobile number should be valid. So that thing will work on. Mobile number should be equal to 10 digits. So this is our requirement, and this has to be validated on clicking on submit button. So for that, what we can able to do, we can able to create one validate rule, and we can able to call this validate rule from the flow action. So this is our approach. So first let me show you how to create one validate rule, and in that how to define each and every condition. Okay, so clear so far? Any doubts, Tulani, Uma?
Yes, Chandra.
Uma, you also know?
No, yeah, I'm
So
okay.
I'm trying to create one validate rule. It will be created under process category. So
Okay.
process, and it will be like in validate. Select the validate rule. Giving something like validate custody details. And we want to use it in the framework context. So create and open. So this is how our validate rule will be looking like. Here we have to add multiple properties. Why? Because I want to just go for this. I mean, this will be acting like in server side validation, right? Server side validation meaning on clicking on submit button. So if we just click on submit button, what are all the properties I'm trying to add the conditions here? Those are to be submitted. So finally, validate rule will be validating for multiple properties, whereas other edit validate, so those will not be given a chance to validate with multiple properties at a time. So for each and every property there should be one separate rule, but here in this validate rule I can able to validate for multiple properties at a time. So that is one advantage here. Our first requirement here is first name and last name should be mandatory. So this can be directly done from here only. So for each and every control, so let me take live UI. For each and every control, if we just open this, I can able to directly open it from here and make changes, no? So if I open it directly from here, there will be something called required. Okay, so if we just make it as an always, if we just make it as an always, it will be marking. So there is no save option enabled, meaning it's in the checkout stage. It's in the private edit. Okay. So this has been checked out by this another operator. Okay. Okay. For the testing purpose, we can able to go for this private edit, no? So click on private edit and open this control, and there will be something called required as always. So I'm selecting. Automatically, we should be getting the red color symbol here. Okay. And for this also, I want to make this mandatory. So required always submit this. So our first requirement is completed. Second thing is I want to make last name is not equal to first name. So if the user is entering first name and last name same, I have to display some error message onto the last name property. Okay, not on the first name. First name can be anything. Based on the first name value, I want to compare it with the last name. So that is the reason I want to include one property where I want to show the error message. So for that I am trying to include that last name property. It will be like customer details dot last name, right? I'm selecting this last name property, and I have to add some conditions. What should be the condition? Last name should not be equal to first name. So that should be my condition. So if that is not satisfying, I have to show some error message onto this property. So the selection of property is that purpose. And now I want to add some condition for that. Click on add. If we click on add, it will be just checking for the condition, and click on down arrow to select the necessary things. So the approach what I'm trying to do here is I want to compare two strings. The first string, like a first name value of the string, should be compared to the last name string. So here there will be many OOTB functions where we can able to select the appropriate one. So the best appropriate will be first string relation second string. So this seems to be good, right? So I can able to go for this. If first string does not equal to last string, second string, likewise, where we can able to use the necessary function. We can able to just explore all this. We can able to use the necessary function. Here I can able to go for this one. First string relation second string, meaning what should be the first string? So customer details dot first name is equal to customer details dot last name. So the thing here is I'm trying to use for one function, and in that function I'm trying to compare two strings. This is the first string and this is the second string. I can able to I'm just comparing both the strings. You can able to give last name here also. The thing here is it will be just comparing two strings. If these two strings are equal, then I want to show some error message, and that error message you can able to hard code the value directly here. Okay, I'm giving something like last name should not be equal to first name. Okay, so this is the error message what I want to put. So that's it, submit. Okay, so here we have added validation for this one. So if these are in the same screens or in the different screen also, I can able to add multiple properties here, right? So next thing is I want to add the age property. So just click on plus to add one more property. Select the necessary property like customer details dot age. So I want to validate this property, and the condition should be like he should not be of age less than 18 or greater than 60. So just identify the corresponding and appropriate function for that. So this is related to string, this is related to date, and this is number comparison. So this seems to be apt, right? So I'm selecting this first number relationship second number. So what should be the first number? So customer details dot age. So this should be the number. So during runtime, this value will be having some age. If it is 10 or 15, it has to be passed here. So this 15 is less than 18. Okay, we can able to go for ranges also. So I can go for less than 18 or uh, less than or equal to. I can, in this case, it will be, this will be sufficient, right? So less than 18, this will be, if this condition will be, this condition will be met. If it is 18 also, this condition will not be met. Or you can able to go for like this also. So if it is less than or equal to 17, meaning it will be working for 18 and other things. Okay, so based on the business thing, we have to think correctly. So if it is less than 18, meaning 18 should not be calculated. So if it is less than 18, I want to show some error message. He can able to enter for more than 60 also. So in that case, we have to go for one more cascading condition for this. So for that, click on plus. So what should be the condition again? So I have to compare the value with the higher cutoff also, that is 60. So for that, let me use the same number, I mean same function, first number relations second number, and here customer details dot age if it is greater than 60 or 61. Why? Because if I'm giving 60, it should we should accept him. Okay, so if it is greater than 61, then we should be throwing some error. So if it is less than 18 or if it is less than 61, if we go for end, this will not work. Okay, so he can be less than 16, sorry, less than 18 or greater than 61. So that should be our negative scenarios. So for that, we have to throw some error message. So what should be the error message? We can able to give anything. Okay, I'm submitting like this one. So the first thing what we're trying to do, we're trying to add one first last name property. There we are having a comparison between two strings. So first name is not equal to last name. So that is the thing I'm trying to do. And here I'm trying to show you how to compare with between two numbers. So, and even with that, we're trying to go for multiple conditions also. So age should be this one, and uh, age might be less than 18 or greater than 61. So in that case, we can able to go for this kind of number search. Okay. So what is the next one? Mobile number should be exactly equal to 10 digits. So he can able to enter 2 to 3 digits also. No? So we have to restrict that. So for that we have to enter some message. So let me add the property. So I'm giving something like customer details dot phone. So I'm just trying to add the property and click on add to add the conditions. So here I have to compare the length of the string for 10 digits, correct? So let me check for the length comparison. So this is not enough. So if you feel no none of this will be applicable, then you have to go for expression evaluates to true. So if I just select this, I can able to select some more extra functions from PRPC library, function library. We have already discussed about function library, right? When we are going for PY default data transform, if we want to set the current date time or current month, we have used one function for that. So if I just want to access any of the functions from there, we can able to go for this expression evaluates to true. So if I just click on gear icon, I can able to have this function library open. So click on browse. So this all same for you. This all we already learned about this, right? So now we have to compare the particular value with the length of 10 digits. So for that there will be something called strings that will be related to string length, right? So if anything related to date, we can able to go for this. If anything related to email or mathematics, we can able to go for this. And now here it will be related to string. So for that, select this string. So open this, and here we can able to use the necessary function. I want to compare the length of the string. Okay. So for that, so we can able to go for anything as per the business requirement. So there should be something like length. Okay. So this will be calculating the length of the string. If I just give the any property during runtime, it will be calculated with the string length. So click on plus to add that, and here we have to give the property name. So customer details dot phone number is not equal to 10. So if it is not equal to 10, then I want to show some error message. If it is equal to 10, then no error message is required, right? We can able to go for this. So now what I'm trying to check here is the length of this property. So during runtime, there will be some number of characters entered in the text box. So the length of this property should be, if it is not equal to 10, then I want to show the error message. If this condition is true, then I want to show error message. Okay. So now submit this. We can able to make this particular property required from here also. So the thing what we are seeing in the earlier case, the same thing can able to be done from here also. Okay, just click on submit. So just save this. Clear, right? Any confusions as of now? So here we have created one validate rule, and we have included all the necessary properties where I want to just check for the conditions. As I told you, this validate rule can be called from flow action or the activity or from another validate rule also. Here I can able to call another validate rule within this validate rule. So that is the thing it is showing. If I just click on down arrow, I can able to see all the available validate rules created. Okay. So now in order to have this, we should be, in order to have this validated, we have to call it across the flow action. So on clicking on submit button of this, that particular rule has to be executed and it has to validate the data. So for that, let me go to the flow action. So on flow action, there will be one tab called validation. So go to validation tab, and here we should be giving the validate rule what we have created. So select the validate rule, and okay, so this is in the version number 1. We are currently in the version number 2. So we cannot make any modifications. If you make modification by clicking on private edit, it will be working only for your case. So for that, save as this to version number 2. Okay, so create and open. So this is already given. Save. Okay, so we are calling this particular validate rule here. Now run the flow. So actually it is not working. Why? So we have given required as an always for these two properties, right? So that is the reason it is showing here. So just a tab out, just click on that and click on tab out, then automatically the validation what has been given on the property that will be throwing this error. So this is something like an edit validate or the client side validation, not exactly edit. This will be something like a client side validation. Okay, where without clicking on submit button only we can able to see the error messages. So now I'm trying to give something like sample, so that error message will be gone. And here also I'm trying to give something like sample. This error message also will be gone. Why? Because this will be just checking whether some value is there or not. So age I'm giving like 11 and mobile number I'm giving something like this. Okay, so now if I click on submit, validate rule has to be executed and it has to throw some error messages. So just click on submit button, validate rule got executed. So in this process what it has to do, it has to interact with the Java server and it has to try to push the data to the server, but validate rule will be stopping that. So validate rule will be stopping this particular data to be pushed to the database. Okay, so what it is showing, so last name should not be equal to the first name. So this error message should not, this error message should be displayed only at the last name property. So that is the thing where we have defined the last name property, and it is also showing the age value. So if I'm selecting something like 88, so just click on submit. So even then it is throwing the error. Now let me give something meaningful value. So if I just click on submit button, I should not be getting any of the error messages. We're not getting it, right? So on clicking on submit button, validate rule will be accepting all the data and it will be pushing the data to the server via, it will be pushing to the database via Java server. Clear? So just check out this rule to make any other modifications. So now we'll be working on one more requirement just to show you some other features here. So clear now as of now? Clear, right?
Yes, yes, Chandra.
Uma, you also know?
Yes, Chandra.
Okay. So now the advantage with this validator, what we have observed, we can able to validate at a time for multiple properties, and within each property we can able to go for combinations also. Okay, I can able to have the combination of properties, and for each and every property I can able to go for combination of conditions also. So that is important advantage with this validate rule, where other rule will not be providing these validations, where I cannot able to go for multiple conditions, multiple combination of conditions or multiple combination of properties also. Okay, so now let me make few more modifications. Click on edit. So now my requirement here is, if customer is of gender, if gender is of male, if gender is male, I want to show, I can able to allow him age greater than 21 only, age greater than or equal to 21. Okay, and if suppose gender is female, I can able to accept her into our organization if she is greater than 18 only. So this should be my condition. Okay, our next requirement here is, we're trying to go for combination of different properties within one place. So I want to show some error message onto the age property, where it has to be calculated based on the gender. So initially he will be just selecting the gender value. So initially he will be selecting the gender value. So based on the gender, he will be next entering his age value. If age is like 18, and if it is not a female, then we should be throwing some error. Why? Because male should be minimum of age 25 to get the policy, and if it is of female, we can able to give it for from 18 age only. So that is my requirement. So here we're trying to go for combination of two different properties. So earlier what we have seen, we have went for combination of single property with different values, different conditions. But now I'm trying to go for combination of two different properties, which is possible with validate rule. It is not possible with edit validate rule. So on this age property, I want to show some error message based on the gender. So for that, click on edit. So why is this created in this order? So there is some importance of creating this order. After this discussion, you can able to understand. Okay. So my requirement here is I want to go for combination of gender as well as the age, right? So let me delete it from here first. And let me add the so there will be much importance of this order in the real time. So please enter valid mobile number. So now our requirement here is to just check for the combination of two different properties onto the age property. So that is my thing. For that, let me make few modifications. Click here. So if it is of gender, if the customer is of male, we have to accept him for age greater than or equal to 21. So first, let me go for the combination. I have to compare between two strings here, right? So gender value should be equal to male. So I'm trying to go for comparison of strings here. So here here I can able to go for one function like first string relation second string. Okay, so what should be the first string? Cust details dot gender. If it is equals to male, if it is equals to male, then I want to again check for another condition, that is first number relationship plus second number, right? I have to just check for the combination of age also. What should be the thing? So customer details dot age is less than what's that, 21. So less than 20. Why? Because 21 should not be considered. For 21 we have to make him registered with us. Okay. So here I have to go for end condition. So meaning if the customer is of age, if the customer is of male, then for sure I have to just validate the second condition also. So both the things should be true. So then only we can able to make him. Then only we can able to show the error message. If this condition is true and as well as this condition is true, then I want to show some error message. Male should be minimum of 21. So clear, right? Earlier we have seen the combination of two different conditions. Now we are going for the combination of two different properties. If the customer is of male and if he is less than 20, okay, then we will be showing this message. I'm submitting it. Similarly, you can able to just check for the another thing also. So I want to just initially compare first string with the second string. Okay, first string relation second string, where I want to go for customer details dot gender. If it is female, so this will be completely case sensitive. This value should be defined based on the clipboard, how it is taking. If it is taking small lowercase, then we have to define it like that only. So if the gender is of female, I want to just check for one more condition to throw the error message. So what should be the error? What should be the next condition? I want to compare for her age. If she's of age less than or less than 18, that is like less than or equal to 17, I want to throw some error message. So I want to compare the strings here. First number relationship, second number. So customer details dot age is less than or equal to 17 or less than 18. Whatever the thing you want, you can give that. Female should be older than 18. Okay, so this is the error message I want to show. So click on submit, and now I'm saving this. So you understood what we are trying to do, right? So now let me run the work object ID. So this will be mandatory all the time. Anyway, this is working fine. We have not made any changes. And before this, let me make few modifications to have gender to be selected first. Why? Because we are trying to go for combination, right? So first initially gender value has to be selected, then after age value should be selected. I'm saving it. So refresh this. Add some value. And I'm going for male. So male should be of greater than or equal to 21, right? I'm going for this value. So click on submit. So it has to throw some error message. Okay, so this should not be given. Female should not be. So why are we getting this one? So this if condition should be working, right?
I
What,
think
Tulan?
in female we have set it to O, right?
What O?
The property set if cast detail gender equals to female or age.
Female?
If it is N and then
Okay.
it sets, right?
So this is one mistake what we did. And what's the other thing you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
So I'm trying to give some values and he's selecting male here. So male and he's going for age number, age 11. So we are getting only this value, right? So gender will be male. If it is male, he should be comparing the value with 21. Okay. So if he's selecting female, if she's female, then if she's of 34, let us say, or let us see the negative scenario first. Okay, we have not given that value. So I'm clicking on submit now. So female should be minimum of 18, right? So if I'm giving 18, it should work. For female, this should be accepted. So we're not getting any error message for this, right? So like this, we can able to go for combination of the properties. So whereas with edit validate, this will not be possible. Okay, and with declare constraints also, the thing what we're going to discuss tomorrow or some other after tomorrow. And even with this also, we cannot able to go for multiple combination of properties. With declare constraints also, we can able to go for only one or two properties. Only two properties. But with edit validate, with obj validate, we can able to go for combination of different properties, and for each and every property we can able to have multiple conditions, multiple combination of conditions. That is possible here. Okay, so clear, right? Now let me show you one more thing. So for each and everything we'll be adding some conditions here, and at the last there will be something called continue validation. So there will be much importance of this one. So let me uncheck this. Click on submit. Let me uncheck this. In interviews they'll ask you these questions. So whatever the thing we are discussing, everything will be important. So they might be asking any of the things, right? So I'm trying to uncheck this, clicking on submit. So everywhere we are getting some red color symbols. Save it now. Let me refresh and let us see the behavior. So I'm giving something like sample and sample, and I'm giving like male, I'm giving like 1, okay, and mobile number I'm just entering only 3 values. So I'm just clicking on submit now. So what are we expecting now? So what should be the behavior? I should be getting one error message on the last name property, and I should be getting one error message on the age property, and I should be getting one more on phone property, right? So, but how many error messages we got? We got only one error message. Why did not we get this error message on the age as well as the phone? Even though this data is not valid, okay, we have defined perfectly in the validate rule, but because it was working fine earlier, now I have just unchecked these values like continue validation. I have just stopped it. So meaning technically I have added some breakpoints. So this red color will be called as a breakpoint. So if I'm just unchecking this continue validation, okay, validation will be stopped then and there. Okay, if this first condition is failing, it will be breaking at this point. Okay, so it will not be checking for the next of the conditions. Although if I have some 100 conditions, if the first condition is failing, you will not be validated with the rest of the rules. So this will be used in the real times also. Real time, only if this property is corrected by the customer, if you want to go for next values, then we will be going for this breakpoint. So he will be, based on this, he will be selecting this value. Now he's trying to click on submit button. So what PRPC has to do, on clicking on submit button, it has to just check for the first property. I mean, in this order, the particular order is very important. So it has to just check for the first property. So first property condition is meeting 100%. So that is the thing, it will not be throwing any error. So there is no breakage of the rule, right? So there is no breakage here. So validation rule has been successfully completed for the first one. So breakpoint will not be applicable in this case. Next, it has to come to the second rule. So second rule has to be validated. Here it will be just checking whether age is less than 20 and if it is of male. So what we are trying to do, so this condition has not been meeting. It has to throw some error message. So meaning this particular validate rule has been broken at this stage. So there is one breakpoint applicable. So if there is any breakpoint applicable, then validate rule will be stopped then and there. So validations will not be applicable if it is getting stopped, if it is getting breaked. So customer or the user has to fix it manually, then only we will be allowing him to enter rest of the details. Okay, so now he's selecting something like 43 or so. Now click on submit. So now what PRPC has to do, on clicking on submit button, it has to run one validate rule, using which it has to first go to this particular thing to be checked. Their last name is not equal to first name, so first validate rule will be successful. It will not be throwing any of the error, so there is no breakage of the rule. And next thing, it has to again check for the second validate rule. Here it has to just check for the combination. If it is breaking, it will not be going to the next validate rule. Okay, it will not be just checking for the next property validation. So that is the importance here. So if I enter all these values perfectly and click on submit, then only this will be working fine. So it has to just check for all the breakpoints. If it is not breaking anywhere, then only it has to get submitted. So you understood about the importance of this breakpoint, right? So based on the business requirement, we have to mark this breakpoint, or we can able to disable this also. If we just check this, even though first condition is not successful, it will be validating for the rest of the things also, rest of the conditions also. If anything is breaking at that particular condition, so it will be stopped. So condition validation will not be followed further. So that is the importance of this continue validation checkbox. Clear? Any doubts? Uma, Tulani, you understood the importance of this continue validation checkbox. If this is done, breakpoint will be applicable. So continue validation will not be done. So that is the importance of this. And I'll show you one more thing. Most of the, few things we can able to apply from the property level itself. So one thing what we're trying to see here is making this particular thing mandatory, right? So go to live UI and click on this middle gear icon to open this property control settings directly from here. Even this is also checked out phase, so we can now able to make modifications. So here, if I just double click on this, we can able to see something like required. So this is what we have used as part of validations. Similarly, if you want to restrict some values, if you want to make this value to be entered only for 4 digits or minimum of 5 digits and maximum of 10 digits, so in that case also just go to presentation tab. Here we'll be having minimum characters. If I just enter 3 here, and if we just enter maximum there, then minimum characters and maximum characters will be defined. Okay, so most of the things we can able to do from the control level itself, like mandatory thing we can able to do, and minimum and maximum things we can able to do, and we can able to make this read only on conditional basis, or we can able to disable this on conditional basis. So these kind of things we can able to do directly from the control level. So if I just submit this, it should not be accepting less than 3 characters. So whatever the thing we are defining at the particular control, this should be of client side only. Okay, so just click on tab mode. As per the client side validation, we are getting this one. So just enter one character, click on tab mode. What we are getting, the field should be at least 3 characters long. Are we defining this error message anywhere? We have not defined anything. So these are all completely OOTB across control level. Even this property we have not defined, and this is also we have not defined. So there will be many OOTB validations. We have to know how to use those. That's it. Okay, so when we're working with edit validate, we can able to have this one. So clear, right? Suppose the first name property what we are trying to create, what we're trying to use it now here. So this is the first name property, we are using it here. So in some other screens, so if I have 10 to 15 screens, and there if I'm trying to make use of the same property, not only the first name property, if you're trying to make use of the same property, and if you want to make this particular property to be accepted only with 3 characters, what we want to do? So double click, go to presentation and make 3 here, and in the second screen also double click and make it 3 and make it mandatory. And likewise, we have to do it for 15 screens. Correct, right? Why? Because we're trying to do at the control level. So if it is done at the control level, it will be applicable only at that place. And if we're trying to use the same property in some other place, and we want to have the same validations applicable there also, that will not be possible. So you agree with this, right? That will not be possible. So that is the reason, if you want to have any kind of these things that has to be applicable wherever the property is being used, we have to define the conditions. We have to define these conditions at the property level. So instead of we defining this at the control level, so for the first name, we are defining this at the particular control. For this input control, we are defining it. And if we're trying to make use of this first name property in many places, and if you want to have this particular validations to be applicable for each and every place where you are trying to do, then we have to define these validations at the property level. Okay, so if I just open it here, we'll be getting the property open directly. Once the property has been opened, there will be something called advanced tab. In the advanced tab, we will be having something like validate. So there we can able to add the validations rules. If we just add the validate rule at the property level, then wherever we are trying to use this property, everywhere it will be applicable. So that is the important advantage with this. So, and this kind of validation is called as an edit validate. Okay, so we'll discuss about this edit validate tomorrow in the fresh. Okay, so as of now, the advantage with this validate rule is we can able to validate for multiple conditions at a time and for multiple properties also. But with edit validate rule, as I told you, we will be having these conditions applicable at the property level, meaning each and every validate rule has to be created for one property. I cannot able to make use of this particular I cannot able to have this validate rule applicable for multiple properties at a time. But with edit validate rule, I can able to have multiple properties validated within one rule only, and we can able to go for combination of properties as well as the combination of conditions also. That is the important advantage here. and we can able to have the features of continue validation. Breakpoints can be applicable. So this will be having most of the business requirements that can be achieved. So in the real times, we'll be going for validate rule only, most of the cases. And we can able to call this validate rule from many places. As I just told you, we can able to call this from flow action rule, and we can able to call this from activity also. So in tomorrow's class, I'll show you tomorrow. In tomorrow's class, we will be just working on few more validations rule using the same validation rule. And we will be calling this validation rule from the activity using Obj Validate. Okay. So I'll tell you the requirement. If we have time, we can able to practice it. I'll show you the approach also. There we have to go for multiple OOTP functions. If I just say it now, you might be getting confused. So that is the reason I'm not saying it. So here we have one section. So here even this also should be validated. On clicking on this, I'll be getting all the data copied. So that functionality is working fine. Now my requirement here is I have to apply some conditions. So the condition here should be door number should be of format, this one, of this format, or something like this. So door number should be of this format only, meaning it should be at least accepting one special character. If they are giving something like this one, it should not be accepted. Why? Because I want to have the door number field to be just checking whether we have at least one special symbol or not. I can able to validate this one, I can able to make use of this one or this one or at the rate anything. So if I have to just check for the condition on this door number property whether it is having any of the special symbol or not. So that is one thing I want to just check, I want to show you. And in the landmark, so in the landmark we should not be making the user to enter special characters. So special characters should not be entered. So here special character should be entered. Without the special character we cannot able to accept this value. And here there should not be special characters allowed. So landmark should be some meaningful value. There should not be any hyphen also in between. So that is my requirement. And here customer should not enter alphabets or the special characters. He should be just entering only numbers. Okay, and number should be of only 6 digits, let us say. So string length we have already seen, and we should be restricting him to enter only numbers. Okay, so this will be our requirement. So first create one validate rule, and in that validate rule we will be calling some OOTP functions just to check for the particular property is having special characters or not, and if it is having any numbers or not. So these kind of things we'll be just checking for each and everything. And this has to be called from an activity. Okay, we have already seen how to call this validate rule from flow action, and in tomorrow's class we'll discuss how to call the same validate rule using activity. Okay, and on clicking on this, data has to be transferred successfully here, right? So before that, data has to be validated. Okay, if he's entering some dummy data and clicking on this, automatically validation will be applicable, as well as data transform also will be applicable. If you're entering the dummy data here also, we'll be getting a validation error message, and in between it will be copied, it will be having the data copied to here. Okay, so here we have to make some restrictions unless all the property validations have been done completed. Okay, till we get the proper data, then only we have to make this data copy to the next thing. So clear, right? Do you feel this requirement seems to be difficult or interesting? Can you able to do this? Anyway, I'll tell you tomorrow. If we have time, you can able to practice it. Okay, so it should be accepting the things as per the requirement, and on clicking on this, validation rule has to be called, I mean activity has to be called. So not on clicking on submit button. Listen carefully. Not on clicking on submit button. If you click it on submit button, flow action rule will be executed. Now I want to make this to be called from activity rule. On clicking on this, activity rule has to be called. already we are trying to call one data transform rule here. Okay, so on just clicking on this activity rule will be executed, it will be validating all the necessary data. Although we are getting the error message for four fields, data will be copied. Why? Because data transform will be applicable. So the thing here is we have to make the data transform to be conditionally working based on the validation error messages. Clear? This will be very, very important. Understood?
Yes, Chandra.
So this will be the best business requirement. No one will explain you. You just try to practice it, else we'll discuss anyway tomorrow also.
Okay.
Clear? Both of you?
Yeah.
Okay, then. We'll meet tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Chandra.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Bye.